Ever wondered what the numbers on your coffee jar mean? We see them all the time, those mysterious figures etched onto the sides of our coffee jars, typically ranging from 1 to 10 or sometimes even a more modest scale of 1 to 5. Many of us in our morning haze might simply shrug and assume these digits are a measure of the coffee's strength. We might even think that a higher number equals a stronger, more invigorating brew to kickstart our day. But are these assumptions correct? Are we interpreting this coffee code accurately, or are we just adding more confusion to our caffeine-fueled mornings? Could it be that these numbers are telling us something else about our beloved brew? A secret language of flavor, aroma, and roast, perhaps? So, is the number 10 on the coffee strength scale the strongest? Let's find out. In fact, the higher the number, the darker the roast, which means a stronger flavor profile. Now let's dive a little deeper into what that actually means. When you see a high number on your coffee jar, it is not an indicator of caffeine strength, as one might initially think. Rather, it's an indication of the darkness of the roast. The higher the number, the darker the roast, and consequently the stronger and more intense the flavor. So, how does the roasting process work, you ask? Well, think of it as a performance, with the coffee beans playing the leading role. The beans start off green, but as they roast, they undergo a dramatic transformation. They darken, enlarge, and eventually start to crack, much like popcorn. This cracking is the pivotal moment in the roasting process. The first crack, as it's called in the coffee world, is when the beans have reached a medium roast. But we're interested in the second crack. Once the beans hit the second crack, they have crossed into the realm of dark roast. This is where the magic happens. The intense heat causes more natural oils to be released from the beans. These oils are what give dark roast its distinct, punchy, full-bodied flavor. Lighter roasts, on the other hand, stop before the second crack. They retain a drier, fruitier flavor. But a dark roast with a high number on the scale, that's a whole different story. Every sip of a dark roast coffee is a testament to its journey. From the green bean to the second crack, each step contributes to its robust, intense flavor. It's not just a cup of coffee, it's an experience, a performance in every sip. So next time when you see a high number on your coffee jar, remember it's not about caffeine strength, it's a flavor profile, an indicator of the roast's darkness and intensity. So, dark roast coffees with high numbers pack a punchier, more full-bodied flavor. On the other end of the scale, we have lighter roasts. Now, these are the coffee blends that sit closer to 1 on the scale we've been discussing. The lower numbers, contrary to what you might initially guess, do not signify a weaker or lesser coffee. Instead, they represent a different, equally delightful side of the coffee spectrum. Lighter roasts are less about the robust, punchy notes and more about the subtle, nuanced flavors that coffee beans inherently possess. These blends are roasted for a shorter period of time, not reaching the second crack that we discussed earlier. This shorter roasting time allows the beans to retain more of their original characteristics, resulting in a coffee that can be described as drier and fruitier. Imagine biting into a crisp apple or sipping a delicate white wine. That's the kind of flavor profile you might find in a lighter roast. The taste can be refreshing, with a clear, bright acidity that can truly awaken your taste buds. You might notice notes of berries, citrus, or even floral hints depending on the specific blend and origin of the beans. The beauty of these lighter roasts lies in their complexity. They may not pack the same punch as their darker counterparts, but they offer a symphony of flavors that can be thoroughly enjoyed, particularly by those who appreciate subtlety and complexity in their coffee. It's also worth noting that lighter roasts can be a bit more forgiving when it comes to brewing. Their flavors tend to shine through, even if the grind isn't perfect or the water temperature isn't quite right. This makes them a great choice for those new to brewing their own coffee at home. In essence, the lower numbers on the coffee scale represent a world of flavors that lean towards the light, bright, and fruity side. They offer a different coffee experience, one that's less about intensity and more about the delicate dance of flavors that nature imbued in the coffee bean itself. So, if you prefer a lighter, fruitier coffee, look for a lower number on the scale. But what about caffeine content? Does a higher number mean more caffeine? You might be asking. Well, let's clear up this common misunderstanding. The numbers on the coffee strength scale are all about flavor intensity, not the caffeine content. It's quite the conundrum, isn't it? You'd think, understandably, that a bolder, stronger flavor would equate to more caffeine, but in reality it's not quite so black and white. The process of roasting coffee beans is a delicate art. As the beans are roasted to darker levels, they release more oils, creating a more intense, full-bodied flavor. These flavors are what the numbers on the coffee jar are referring to. So, while a darker roast may offer a punchier, more bitter taste, it doesn't necessarily contain more caffeine. It's all about the flavor profile, not the caffeine kick. So, a higher number means a more bitter, dark flavor, not necessarily more caffeine. So, we've learned quite a bit about those mysterious numbers on our coffee jars today. We've uncovered the truth behind the enigmatic digits, discovering that they are not an indicator of caffeine content, but rather they describe the intensity of the roast. The higher the number, the darker the roast, resulting in a more robust and intense flavor. The natural oils released during the roasting process contribute to this punchier taste, often perceived as bitter. On the flip side, we've also learned that the lighter roasts, usually denoted by lower numbers, offer us a drier, fruitier flavor. This is because they are roasted only until the first crack, allowing less natural oils to be released. So you see, these numbers are not about caffeine strength, but a guide to the flavor profile of the coffee. Next time you pick up a jar of coffee, you'll know exactly what those numbers mean. Enjoy your perfect cup of coffee.